He was told, in writing, by the system itself, there's no point in trying. No matter how hard you work, you'll never be more than third rate. So he became the most dangerous man in the room. It starts with a single message. Do you want to join the game? Lee Ki-young is 25 years old. His last normal memory is eating dinner with his little sister. Then a message lands on his phone, the kind you assume is some friend messing around, and without really thinking, he taps the button. And he wakes up in the dark. Not his room, not anywhere on Earth. A cold stone chamber, shaped like the inside of a pyramid, covered in symbols no human language ever wrote. And he's not alone. Dozens of ordinary people are scattered around him, all just as confused, all just as terrified. Some are screaming, some are threatening to call the police. One man keeps insisting it's a hidden camera prank and he's going to sue. Then the voice comes, a calm female voice with no body attached to it, and it explains the situation like she's reading a terms of service agreement. You have been invited to this world. You accepted. You've been chosen as heroes to save a dying continent. And just as people start to relax, heroes, okay, that sounds like a video game, she drops the part that actually matters. Not everyone gets to be a hero. Only those who survive the tutorial. The word survive hits the room like cold water, because she means it literally. There are weapons stacked in the corner. Real ones, medieval swords and spears and bows, most of them dull and old, a few of them sharp. There's food and water in leather pouches, and there are monsters coming. The whole point of this room is to find out who lives and who doesn't. And right away, I want to point something out, because it's the thing that makes this story tick. This isn't a power fantasy where the hero shows up grinning. This is a horror movie where a calm robot lady tells a crowd of office workers and students that most of them are about to die. That tone, that cold administrative cruelty, never really goes away. So Ki-young does what any of us would do. He opens his status window. Like a game. Name, age, class, stats. And at the bottom, glowing purple, he finds something special. A heroic grade attribute, sitting there from the very start. He reads it. Mind's eye, heroic grade. It lets him view the full status of himself and other people. And, crucially, it lets him see their hidden talent ratings, their potential, how far they can actually grow. For one beautiful second, he lets himself hope. Maybe he's the chosen one. Maybe he's the protagonist. Then he checks his own talent, and the system tears him apart. Every single stat, strength, agility, stamina, intelligence, endurance, luck, magic, comes back the same. Common, below average, the lowest tier that exists. And the system doesn't just report it, it editorializes. It actually tells him, and I'm barely paraphrasing here, there's no point in making an effort. No matter how hard you work, you'll never become more than third rate. Your future is deeply concerning. You don't have to bother picking up a sword. It's obvious what's going to happen to you anyway. Imagine being insulted by your own character sheet. But read that verdict one more time, because the system let something slip that it clearly didn't mean to sound hopeful. Buried under all the contempt is a single, grudging line. Almost everything is a lost cause. Except, it mutters, his intelligence and his luck. Those two, it admits, are fine. It says it dismissively, like it can't believe they're even worth mentioning. Hold on to that anyway, because that throwaway half-compliment is the one crack of daylight in an otherwise sealed verdict, and it's the exact crack that everything which follows is going to grow out of. And this is the brilliant setup of the entire series. The hero is handed a god-tier power of information. He can see everyone's hidden potential, and in the same breath he learns that he, personally, is garbage. He's the weakest person in the room who happens to have the best eyes. He can't win a fight. So from minute one, he has to win everything else. He has to outthink, outtalk, and outmaneuver people who are physically stronger than he will ever be. He's not going to be the hero of this story. He's going to be the guy standing behind the hero, quietly deciding everything. The countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the room opens. Except it doesn't open from the front, where everyone's pointing their weapons. A gate grinds open at the back, and the first monster sinks its teeth into a woman's neck before anyone even understands what's happening. Blood everywhere. Monsters pour in from every direction, and the brave little formation people built collapses into pure panic. Ki-young's strategy is immediate and unsentimental. Run. But before he runs, he does two things that define him. First, he reads the biggest, most aggressive guy in the room with mind's eye. Park Deok-gu, 23, disposition enthusiastic musclehead, with monster-tier endurance and strength. And Ki-young instantly attaches himself to this human shield, flatters him, fights beside him, makes himself Deok-gu's friend before the kid even knows what's happening. Second, and this is the dark one, on the way out, a woman who's been bitten on the shoulder begs him for help, and Ki-young doesn't save her. He uses her as cover to escape, a half-hearted "I'm sorry," and keeps moving. That's our hero, folks. The novel wants you to know exactly who you're following. He's not evil for the fun of it, but he will absolutely let you die if the math says so. There's also a third thing, and he almost misses it. As a monster lunges at him, a sword comes flying out of nowhere and kills it. Ki-young catches a glimpse of the man who threw it, a man whose face isn't scared of dying. Hold on to that. It matters a lot. They make it out, and once they're safe in a corner of this maze-like dungeon, Ki-young lays out his entire philosophy to Deok-gu. Hiding doesn't work. The food runs out in less than a week, and the continent waiting on the other side is probably worse than this. The only answer is to treat this like the game it clearly is. Kill monsters, raise your stats, earn a class, level up. And then he tests his own theory in the most horrifying way possible. A weak monster, he reads it, a crawfish, pathetic stats, wanders close, and Ki-young forces himself to charge it. The fight is not heroic. It's clumsy and panicked. His aim is terrible. He shoves the spear in wrong, then grabs a rock and just smashes the thing's skull over and over, breaking his own fingernails until its face is paste. And then the system chimes. Strength increased by 1. It works. The theory works. You kill, you grow. Deok-gu, who calls him Hyungnim, Big Brother, from this moment on, is stunned. And Ki-young, covered in gore, has his plan. Survive, level, get a class. That's the ladder out. Now the story drops its first real bomb. While hunting, the duo runs into a woman being chased by 3 monsters. Ki-young reads her on instinct. Jung Hyan, 21, disposition, pure advocate. And his jaw drops, because her magic potential is rated above legendary, above the highest tier the system has. The overview basically says she could shake the world as a wizard or priest, and that Ki-young, by comparison, has the potential of an ant. So he immediately decides, she's a treasure. I have to keep her. But before he can even process that, the same mysterious swordsman from the starting room appears again and saves them. Ki-young reads him too, and this is the moment everything changes. Kim Hyun-sung, 22. And his titles aren't normal. The Regressor of Altanis, the swordsman who started the second round, the one who failed, the one who embraced sacrifice, the enlightened one. This man is a time traveler. He's done all of this before. He has lived through the future, failed at something enormous, and come back to try again. And here's where Ki-young's mind becomes genuinely terrifying as a tool. He doesn't panic. He reasons. He thinks, a regressor would already know who the important people are. So if this man shows no special reaction to me or Deok-gu, we were nobodies in his past life. Unimportant. Expendable. But the way Hyun-sung looks at Hyan, like a man who found an oasis, like a long-lost family member, that means she's critical to his future. Which means Ki-young concludes, Hyeon is a treasure that just rolled in right under my feet, and I'm going to claim her loyalty before he does. Let me just appreciate the chess being played here. Within minutes of meeting a literal time traveler, our below-average loser has already figured out the man's secret, gauged his own irrelevance, and started planning how to leverage a third person's future value against both of them. The body is third-rate. The brain is heroic. Never forget that combination. Hyun-sung invites them to his camp. About 30 survivors he's gathered in a defensible spot with a single entrance. And Ki-young, reading everyone there, realizes a bleak truth. This place wasn't made safe for fighters like them. It was made safe for helpless people, and Ki-young and Deok-gu are being quietly recruited as protectors. As meat shields, basically, for 30 frightened strangers. And it's worth slowing down on how this camp even exists, because it didn't just appear out of thin air. While Ki-young spent his first days hiding in a corner, grinding stats off the weakest monsters he could find, Hyun-sung had been doing the exact opposite. Remember, the system tags his disposition as genuinely good, and that's not decoration. Haunted by everyone he couldn't save in that opening massacre, the Regressor had been walking the dungeon alone, following screams, pulling survivors out one at a time, and funneling them all to a single defensible dead end. One narrow entrance, sealed off on every other side, far from the killing floor of the starting room. So by the time our trio arrives, it's already a working little society. A handful of fighters hunt in rotation to bring back food and raise their stats. Everyone else, the office workers, the students, the old, the terrified, cooks, hauls water, reinforces the walls, and waits. There are rations, there are work shifts, and there is a pecking order. It's a tiny civilization with jobs and politics and a bottom rung. And keep that bottom rung in mind, because it's exactly where a certain lonely girl is about to get shoved. At the entrance, they meet Lee Ji-hae, 29, who greets Hyun-sung as Oppa. Ki-young reads her instantly. Disposition, selfish ambitionist, with absolutely trash stats. The system actually congratulates him on finding his soulmate with equally hopeless talent, and suggests they settle down together, though it pities their hypothetical children. The system, again, is the funniest and meanest character in this entire show. But Ki-young sees something important in Ji-hae. She's him. She's another schemer who latched onto the strong man to survive. She's not a fighter, she's a manager, a controller, the person who runs the camp's food and logistics while Hyun-sung is away. Two predators recognizing each other across a room. Then comes the negotiation that sets the whole template. Ki-young sits Hyun-sung down and lays it out cold. I'm not a volunteer. I'm not the self-sacrificing type like you. I'm not going to bleed for people who won't bleed for me. So here are my terms. First, I get priority on resources we find. Second, I get a seat in your future plans. And here's the masterstroke. He frames everything as brilliant deduction, pretending he figured out the secrets of the tutorial through pure logic, when really he just read it all off the status windows. Hyun-sung, impressed, says quietly, "So you knew." And Ki-young covers perfectly, feeding the Regressor back his own information while looking like a genius for it. They shake hands. Alliance sealed. The pushover Regressor now trusts the manipulator completely. This, by the way, is the engine of the whole series. Ki-young never reveals Mind's Eye. He just performs being smart, using stolen information, and lets everyone credit his intuition. It's information warfare disguised as charisma. Eventually, the grinding pays off, and Ki-young unlocks a class. He's offered 4 options: Warrior, Archer, and Wizard, all common grade, and 1 rare grade class glowing blue. Commander. Now, a rare class sounds obviously better, right? That's the trap. The Commander class gives only +1 intelligence, has no clear advancement path, and is built around giving orders from the back. Something Ki-young, who admits he's terrible at strategy games and more suited to being a scammer than a commander, has no real talent for. He notices Hyun-sung's facial muscles stiffen for just a fraction of a second when he mentions it. Commander is a trap. Deok-gu, meanwhile, gets a beautiful little arc here. He's offered a rare Shieldman class, and on Hyun-sung's advice, he takes it, trading a little attack power for monster-tier defense, leaning fully into being the wall that protects everyone. It's the right call, and it's genuinely sweet that the musclehead chooses to specialize in keeping his friends alive. Then comes one of the funniest scenes in the early story. Deokgu desperately wants Ki-young to pick commander. He keeps imagining his Hyungnim barking orders like a boss. Hyunsung keeps pushing Archer for the stats. And the two of them devolve into just yelling single words at each other. Archer! Commander! Archer is better! Commander is even better! While Ki-young stands there with a headache. And the chapter ends without telling us what he picked. He chooses in secret, and the camera cuts away. Beautiful little cliffhanger. The answer, revealed shortly after, is Wizard. Not because his magic is good, it's awful, but because his intelligence is secretly heroic tier, and he's betting that a brain-based caster can outgrow a body that will never improve. He'd rather build on his one strength than waste points on a body the system already wrote off. Now we enter the darkest, most uncomfortable, and honestly, most compelling stretch of the entire tutorial arc. Because Ki-young turns his full attention to Jung Hyeon, the legendary potential girl, the lottery ticket. And his plan for her is genuinely chilling when you say it out loud. He notes her disposition, pure advocate, and thinks, with total calm, pure things are easily dyed. Hyeon, we learn, is desperately lonely. Her parents are gone, she lost contact with her older sisters, she was bullied her whole life for being slow and stupid, and she believes she's worthless. In the camp, Ji-hae has quietly shoved her to the bottom of the social ladder, isolated and overworked. She is, in Ki-young's cold assessment, a person with cracks in her heart, and cracks are where you get a grip. Before he can fully move in, a predator gets there first. A man named Yoo Sok-woo, who oversees the camp's labor with an injured leg, has been playing nice with Hyeon, and then corners her, grabs her hand, drops the friendly mask, and makes it ugly and coercive. It's a genuinely sickening scene, and Hyeon is so naive she doesn't even fully understand what's being threatened. She's saved by Deokgu, who arrives and beats Sok-woo into a wall. Satisfying, for about 30 seconds. Because then Ji-hae shows up and runs a masterclass in victim blaming, twisting the situation until Hyeon, the victim, is being pressured to apologize to her own harasser in front of a hostile crowd. And this is where Ki-young steps in to save her. He shuts Ji-hae down, publicly declares, Hyeon isn't that kind of person, I guarantee it. A guarantee he privately admits is complete nonsense, based on nothing but a disposition he read off her status window. But it works. He becomes her protector, her authority, her shield against the whole camp. And then he tells us exactly what he's doing. By becoming the powerful man's favorite, Hyeon becomes the perfect lightning rod for everyone's resentment, which keeps that hatred pointed at her and away from him. He's not saving her. He's making her into a heat shield. He literally thinks of her as easy prey, much better prey than me. I have to stop and say it. This is one of the more genuinely unsettling protagonists in this whole genre, precisely because the narration never lets you off the hook. You want to root for him because he's clever and the world is cruel, and the book keeps reminding you that he's targeting a traumatized, abused girl with surgical precision. In private, Ki-young deploys the kill shot. Hyeon, wary, asks why he's being so kind to her, and he says, "You remind me of my little sister back home." It's a lie. His actual sister, Yulha, is nothing like Hyeon, but it lands like a missile because the one thing Hyeon has been starving for her entire life is family. He gets her to call him Oppa. He gets her dependent. His mantra throughout is a single word: slowly. Build a bond that won't crumble. Meanwhile, he seals a parallel alliance with Ji-hae. The two schemers strike a deal. She'll stop suppressing Hyeon and hand her over in exchange for an alliance with the camp's second power. They seal it with a kiss that both of them narrate as purely transactional. Let's use each other, basically. We're a little similar. Yes, I think so too. It's the least romantic kiss ever written, and it's perfect for who they both are. And the main tool he uses to sink the hook deeper is magic itself. See, the moment Ki-young takes the wizard class, the system hands him the bare basics of casting, just enough to coax a tiny flame out of his fingertip. His own magic is hopeless, his mana barely trickles. But Heian, the girl with legendary potential, has mana pooling inside her that nobody ever taught her to feel. So Ki-young offers to teach her. Quiet, private little lessons. Sit here, breathe, circulate your mana, try to light the flame. And he's completely upfront with us about why he bothers, when his own talent is garbage. There's no faster way to bind someone to you than to become the person who teaches them. Every lesson is one more hour of her leaning on him, trusting him, calling him Oppa. Just sit with that image for a second. The man the system declared the single worst talent in the building, the guy who can barely make a spark, is now playing magic tutor to a once-in-a-world prodigy and using the lessons as a leash. He thinks he's slowly molding her, one calm session at a time. He has absolutely no idea those sessions are doing something to her, too, something he's about to walk straight into. But here's the twist that makes Heian the most interesting character in the book. While Ki-young thinks he's grooming her, he checks her status window and freezes. She already has a wizard class. She already has a heroic grade attribute. She's been secretly capable this entire time, faking incompetence, deliberately failing his little magic lessons, blocking her own mana when he tries to help her channel it. Why? Because if she's good at magic, the lessons end. And the lessons are her time with Oppa. She's been sabotaging herself to keep him close. The narration from her side is heartbreaking and terrifying in equal measure. She describes his fake affection as something addicting, like a drug. And she's so scared of losing it that she's lying to the very person who's lying to her. The manipulator is being manipulated. The predator has, without realizing it, hooked something far more dangerous than he understands. It all detonates over jealousy. Ji-hye attaches another woman to Ki-young, Park Hye-young, disposition, calculating diplomat, a competent socializer who openly tries to flirt her way into his good graces as an insurance policy. And Heian watches. Heian watches Hye-young talk to her Oppa, lean on her Oppa, get chosen to go on the hunting trip with her Oppa. Hye-young, for her part, twists the knife. She corners Heian and tells her the cruelest truth available, that men like Ki-young don't actually love anyone, that he'll get bored and throw her away, that everyone always abandons Heian eventually. Her parents did, her sisters did, and then she whispers, a lie that Ki-young slept with her, just to watch Heian break. Now here's the stage all of this finally detonates on. The camp's food is running thin, so Hyun-sung calls everyone together, an open assembly to recruit and train more hunters, because the only way anyone leaves this place is if more people get strong. And Ki-young seizes the moment. He stands up in front of the entire camp, and, for the first time in public, he casts. A small flame blooms over his open palm. To a crowd of terrified office workers who have only ever run from monsters, it's electric. Living proof that an ordinary nobody can become something more. And that one demonstration quietly does two things that both pay off later. It cements Ki-young as a figure of real power in the camp, and it drops a poisoned seed into weaker, greedier heads, the idea that they could march out and grab that kind of power for themselves. Then, still up on that platform, in front of everyone, he starts choosing who joins his hunting party. And on the recruitment platform, when Ki-young takes Hye-young's hands in a simple handshake, the narration gives us one line. Something collapsed inside Jung Hye-an. That's the awakening. And the very next time Ki-young looks at her, he catches a glimpse of her eyes. Strange, tranquil, wrong. And it sends a cold sweat down his spine. The master predator, for the first time, feels fear toward his own prey. He tells himself it's his imagination. It is not his imagination. The expedition heads out, Deokgu tanking up front, Hyun-sung and Hye-young in the middle, Ki-young and Hayan at the rear. They discover something huge, a staircase going down. The dungeon has multiple floors, and going deeper is almost certainly the way to clear it. Hyun-sung, who's a hilariously bad actor, pretends to discover this for the first time, and Ki-young plays along while internally rolling his eyes. But the real story is what happens at night. Ki-young wakes up to a strange sensation and realizes Hayan is in the dark, kissing him, holding his hands while he pretends to sleep, breathing heavily. And then she gets up, stands over the sleeping Hye-young, and just watches her, motionless, for a very long time. And when her head suddenly snaps toward Ki-young, their eyes meet for a split second, and he feels something he can only describe as killing intent. He shuts his eyes and pretends, because what else can he do? The next day, during a chaotic monster swarm, triggered, by the way, by Hye-young panicking and screaming, which draws every monster in earshot, the group has to scatter and run. Ki-young is absorbed in the brutal effort of casting a fireball while sprinting, his tower of mana collapsing over and over in his mind. And when he finally launches it and turns around, Hayan and Hye-young are gone. Not lost. Gone. And Ki-young, the detective, works it out in real time. Deokgu isn't clumsy enough to lose two people. There are no traps on this floor. There's a faint trace of mana in the air. Hayan engineered this. She cast a separate spell while he was distracted, sealed off a passage, and walked away alone with the woman she hates. And now the book does something cruel and brilliant. It switches to Hye-young's point of view. We watch her realize she's been separated. We watch her mock Hayan as stupid, right up until Hayan calmly murmurs an incantation. Windblade. And Hye-young's leg simply falls off. Clean, severed at range. Hayan explains that she's sealed the area with a sound barrier, so screaming is pointless. No monsters are coming. You can relax. Then she explains her reasons, and they're horrifyingly petty. You caused trouble for Oppa. You ruined my outing. You tried to take my Oppa away. She cuts off Hye-young's arm. She magically seals her mouth to stop the noise. And she does it all with a bright, gentle smile. And right as it reaches its worst, Ki-young arrives. This is his moral event horizon, and the way he handles it tells you everything. He could try to stop her. He could fight her. But he doesn't know her spells. He can't beat her. And if he accuses her, that blade turns on him. So he makes a choice. He pretends he has no idea she's the killer. He plays shocked. He silently coaches her in his head. Give me a good excuse. Cover your mouth. Look horrified. And she does, and he accepts the lie. Hye-young, mouth sealed, looks at him and silently begs to be saved. And Ki-young understands her perfectly. And he chooses the talented murderer over the dying victim, because that's what the math says. He can't even do first aid. He never learned. So instead, as she bleeds out, he casts a firewall and burns her body, telling himself and Hayan that it's to send her off properly, when really it's to destroy the evidence before Hyun-sung can examine it. And watching the flames, he admits the thing the whole arc has been building to. He looks at Hayan struggling to hide her smile, and he thinks, she's not the only monster here. I'm just like her. When Hayan asks him afterward, "You're sad, aren't you?" he gives the correct answer. "I'm just glad you weren't hurt." She beams, and the narration closes with 5 words. "I only half meant it." That's the thesis of this entire show right there. He's not pretending to be a monster to survive. He found out he already was one. After all of that darkness, the series does something it does really well. It whiplashes straight into comedy, and somehow it works. Back at camp, Ki-young is trying to figure out how to manage his ticking time bomb. He has 2 options. Option 1, gently steer Hayan toward a safe, sibling-style relationship. Dial the intensity down from romance to family. Safest path. Option 2, pull her into a full romance so she'll accept anything he says without question. more dangerous. He decides on option 1. And then Dokgu reveals that he has been, this entire time, playing matchmaker. He thought Ki-young wanted Hyan, so he's been pushing her little by little because, and I quote, he is Park Dokgu, the love doctor of Kangwon-do. He's been actively sabotaging option 1 for weeks out of pure, misguided loyalty. He even insists on respectfully calling the younger Hyan Nunim, older sister, because she's Hyung's woman. Ki-young's internal reaction is basically a scream. Park Dokgu, you pig! An almost flawless checkmate. His loyal idiot bodyguard has, with the best of intentions, accelerated him straight toward the dangerous option. It's a genuinely great tonal pivot. The same book that just burned a woman alive gets a real laugh out of a himbo's matchmaking, and the gear change lands. The camp's fragile balance shatters when Yoo Seok-woo, that's right, the harasser, leads a reckless breakaway group out to hunt, inspired by Ki-young's earlier public magic demonstration. 7 people leave, 1 comes back, Seok-woo, and he brings 3 strangers with him. Ki-young reads the leader of the strangers, and it's the scariest status window he's seen yet. Jung Jin-ho, 29. Disposition, calculating killer, a type Ki-young has never even encountered before. Class, battle mage, rare grade, which means, like Hyun-sung, this man has mana despite not being a pure wizard. His stats are flawlessly balanced, all top tier, the foundation of a future ranker. And the system, which has spent 30-some chapters insulting Ki-young, gives him an actual warning. I recommend not getting any closer. This person could be too dangerous for you. The standoff that follows is fantastic. Jin-ho is all smiles and politeness, but he keeps casually drifting his hand toward his sword, and Ki-young keeps backing up to maintain casting range, a fireball half-built and suppressed in his mind. Jin-ho tells a story about a group of bad guys he encountered. Murdered women, knife wounds, arrows in backs, sword wounds, while his own group conveniently includes an archer, a swordsman, and a spearman. He's describing his own crimes, smiling, testing whether Ki-young will flinch. The spell is a hair trigger away from launching when Hyun-sung's voice cuts in. What's going on? And Jin-ho smoothly turns the sword grab into a handshake. And then comes the hook that powers the next stretch. Jin-ho introduces himself to Hyun-sung, and Hyun-sung's face goes rigid, his eyes fill with anger, his body actually shakes. The exact same reaction he had when he first saw Hyan. Which means the Regressor recognizes Jung Jin-ho from the future. This calm, smiling killer is someone important in the timeline that already happened, and important enough to make the gentle, controlled Hyun-sung tremble with what looks like hatred. Though here's the honest caveat. When Ki-young later tries to pin him down on it, the Regressor downplays the whole thing, waves it off as a brief brush, once, a very long time ago, barely worth remembering. And that is almost certainly a lie. You don't shake with rage over a stranger you passed in a hallway years ago. Hyun-sung knows exactly who Jung Jin-ho is, and exactly what he's capable of. He just isn't ready to say it out loud yet. Here's where Ki-young's brain does something genuinely cold-blooded, and you almost have to admire it. He has a problem. Hye-young's murder is a loose thread. He has a wish. He'd like Jin-ho gone. And Jin-ho's arrival solves both at once. Because now there's a known killer in camp, a man Hyun-sung already distrusts. So Ki-young walks up to Hyun-sung and confesses Hye-young's death first, framing it as an unknown magic attack, maybe a dungeon trap, and explaining that he burned the body. He never accuses Jin-ho. He just lets the timeline imply it. Why would the murder happen right when a murderer shows up? He literally thinks, "Thanks, Jung Jin-ho, you lucky break. The culprit has been decided." He pivots from wanting Jin-ho dead to wanting Jin-ho alive, briefly, just long enough to pin a crime on him. There's a beautifully bleak bit of social irony here, too. Jin-ho, the real killer, ingratiates himself with the weak camp folk, shares his food, does chores, refuses thanks, and they love him for it. Meanwhile, Ki Young's group hoards their food and stays aloof, and the camp resents them. The book has a very sharp, very cynical eye for how people actually decide who the good guys are. This whole plan traces back to a quieter moment earlier on. Sometime after Ki Young pins Hye Young's death on the timeline with Jin-ho's arrival, he goes to find Hyun-sung alone and raises the idea himself. Supplies are running out, water's low, and now that Jin-ho's people have joined, they finally have enough hands to attempt the lower floors. Hyun-sung clearly doesn't love the idea. He sits with it, visibly uneasy. But after weighing it, he agrees. He even asks Ki Young to be the one to break the news to Hayan and Dokgu instead of doing it himself. It's only on that errand, walking back to relay the plan, that Ki Young crosses paths with Hyun-sung again, and finds him already digging through a treasure chest. Before they go deeper, Hyun-sung hands out gear from a treasure chest he found, and Ki Young clocks that these items are too good, too convenient, like Hyun-sung has access to resources he shouldn't. File that away. The loot, an iron dwarf's bracelet that grants flat stats, which goes to Dokgu the tank. A sacred healing ring, usable once a day, which goes to Hayan because she can actually channel divine magic. And a magic shield ring, usable twice a day, which Ki Young takes as his personal life-saving trump card. A rare-grade panic button, basically. Remember that ring. It's going to save his life. Twice. After the gear is handed out, both groups agree to head down together to the next lower floor. And you might be wondering why two groups who clearly want each other dead would willingly walk into a sealed room together. It's the same coin, read from two sides. For Hyun-sung, it's cold math. The lower floor is a survival gauntlet, and he needs the extra bodies on the line to live through it. For Jin-ho, it's the perfect opportunity. A chaotic monster swarm behind a locked gate is the ideal place to make Hyun-sung disappear and have it look like an accident. Both men know exactly what the other is planning. Both of them go down those stairs anyway, smiling the whole way. That's what tense fake harmony really means here. Then both parties descend together into a lower dungeon, Hyun-sung's 4 and Jin-ho's 4. 8 people in tense fake harmony. The iron gate slams shut behind them, and the system announces a rare-grade compulsory quest, survival. A horde of monsters floods in from every direction, far more than before. This is exactly why Hyun-sung wanted the numbers. This is the real test. The battle is a meat grinder, and it delivers 2 of the arc's best beats. The first is Park Deok-gu's height moment. The endurance tank, the guy everyone underestimates, plants himself at the center of the line and just refuses to fall. He shield bashes monsters flying, soaks hits that should drop him, and keeps screaming at Ki Young. "Don't fall, Hyung-nim! You have to survive!" Even Ki Young, who spent the whole book calling him a pig and a musclehead, has a genuine moment of awe. Is he even human? The himbo earns it. The second beat is pure villainy, and it's our hero. Ki Young notices that Hayan's magic and his own are landing on his own group's side of the battlefield, leaving Jin-ho's party to take the heavier load. And he decides to make that permanent. He has Hayan deliberately not help the other side. He lets Jin-ho's people get bitten and overwhelmed while screaming for aid. And then he casts his fireball into the densely packed monsters on Jin-ho's flank. It's powerful. It buys them a moment of relief. They're grateful. And then the fire spreads, exactly as Ki Young intended, turning the monsters into living torches that charge straight into Jin-ho's group as balls of flame. He spread the fire on purpose, and while he's doing it, out loud, he's shouting encouragement and apologizing. "I'm so sorry. I didn't think they'd spread the fire," while internally going, "Burn, burn, you monsters." One of Jin-ho's men, Lee Ki-chul, gets caught and dragged into the inferno and eaten alive while burning, screaming for help. And Ki Young could save him with his last fireball. He chooses not to. He watches a man burn to death, feels a flicker of disturbance, and then admits the corner of his mouth is curling into a smile, because this is, in his words, something I very much wanted to see. They win the fight, but the quest isn't over. And in the aftermath, Ki-chol's burned, half-eaten corpse becomes a flashpoint. His friend, a hot-headed man named Kim Jae-joon, confronts Ki-young, who plays the innocent victim flawlessly. "It was unavoidable. I only know fire magic. Without me, you'd all be dead." Every word technically true. Every word a lie of omission. Jae-joon punches him. And here's the thing. Ki-young lets him. He deliberately doesn't dodge, takes the hit, crumples, spits blood, even loses a tooth. Because being the visibly battered victim lowers everyone's guard and wins him sympathy. He stops Deokgu from retaliating, plays it humble, and watches the other group's suspicion of him melt away. It's a great little encapsulation of his whole character. He can't win the fight, so he wins the aftermath of the fight. But the final image of that scene is the scary one. Ki-young looks over and sees Jung Hyeon staring at Jae-joon, the man who hit her oppa, with a completely blank, expressionless face. And we, the audience, already know exactly what that face means. What follows is the arc's horror peak. As the merged group travels on in tense, forced peace, Ki-young actually engineers the next conflict on purpose, because Hyun-sung wants a clean justification to wipe out Jin-ho's group, and Ki-young's specialty is provocation. He uses Hyeon's affection and Seok-woo's jealousy as a weapon, getting deliberately handsy with Hyeon in front of the jealous Seok-woo, then a taunt that pushes Seok-woo over the edge. Seok-woo stabs him. And Ki-young takes that hit on purpose too, betting on Hyeon's healing ring, because Seok-woo stabbing him in front of everyone publicly implicates Jin-ho's entire group and gives Hyun-sung his excuse. What he doesn't plan for is the second blade. In the chaos that erupts, one of Jin-ho's men, the hot-headed Kim Jae-joon, misreads the moment and rams a dagger into Ki-young's back. A second wound, from a direction he never accounted for. The plan works. But it nearly kills him, because both Hyeon and Deokgu panic instead of healing him, and he almost bleeds to death waiting. His own cleverage almost ends him. Lesson learned, he notes, only gamble when you've prepared the board. The fighting erupts. Hyun-sung chases down Jin-ho, and Hyeon slips away to hunt Kim Jae-joon. We get Jae-joon's point of view for his final minutes, and it's brutal. He's fleeing, and the dungeon path stops matching his memory. Hyeon has used her magic to warp the route and trap him. An invisible wind takes one leg, then the other, then a hand. And then she steps out of the dark, eyes red, hair wild, wiping away tears, and tells him, "I won't apologize. I have to kill every human who hurts my oppa." She forces a tiny version of her air bomb spell into his mouth and detonates it. And buried in her monologue is a line that recontextualizes everything. She says she has to return, as my oppa has already suffered dozens of times. Which strongly implies that Hyeon, too, may have regressor knowledge, that she may have done this before, that the sweet, broken girl might be playing a game even longer than Ki-young's. The book doesn't confirm it here, it just plants the seed and lets it sit there, glowing. As for how Ki-young actually gets patched up, it's not immediate. Both Hyeon and Deokgu freeze up first. Hyeon, "I hate you!" instead of casting anything, and for a moment, Ki-young is just bleeding on the ground while the fight rages around him. It's only when Deokgu grabs her hand and physically snaps her out of the panic that she remembers she's wearing the healing ring. She activates it right there, and the light closes his wounds. Not fully painless, but enough to pull him back from actually dying. That gap between getting stabbed and getting healed is exactly what makes the gamble as dangerous as it was. Meanwhile, Ki-young is left with the tied-up Yoo Seok-woo, and he does something he hasn't done yet. He decides to kill him himself. But first, he destroys him psychologically. He explains to Seok-woo that his beloved leaders abandoned him and ran, that he was never anything more than disposable insurance. a variable, and that this entire situation was a trap Ki-young built from the very beginning. He makes Suk-woo understand fully that he was a pawn, and then, with trembling hands, because this is the first person he's killed with his own two hands, he drives the spear through his throat. He frames it to himself as sharing the original sin, that after engineering so many deaths from a distance, he needs to experience it directly at least once. It's a real character shift, the cold, remote manipulator stepping forward to get blood physically on his hands. And Deok-gu, trying to lighten the unbearable moment, asks an absurd question. Was he Christian? And Ki-young laughs and gives a flat answer. There's no such thing as God. And the instant he says it, the system pings. A new job has opened. Killing a human granted experience. The dark irony of denying God a half-second before the system rewards him for murder is, I think, completely intentional. The killing of a human unlocks a fresh class selection. 5 rare grade options: Summoner, Magician, Warlock, Alchemist, and Flame Wizard. And this kicks off a debate, because Hyun-sung returns, having killed Jin-ho, confirming the entire enemy party is now dead, and immediately starts giving build advice. Ki-young covers for Hyeon here, by the way, telling Hyun-sung that he killed Jae-jun, so that Hyeon won't be branded a murderer. A small, almost tender bit of protectiveness from a man who has shown very little. Hyun-sung pushes hard for Alchemist. It suits Ki-young's high intelligence, lets him make valuable potions, and opens the homunculus path, a pet that doesn't drain mana. And then we get the comedy callback of the arc. Deok-gu, who once relentlessly chanted Commander, has evolved into a warlock parrot, insisting Ki-young must be a warlock purely because he'd look cool in a black robe. Hyun-sung and Deok-gu devolve into the exact same single-word shouting match from way back at the start. Alchemist! Warlock! Until it stops making any sense at all. Hyun-sung wins by cheating. He produces a bribe from his bag, and Ki-young clocks that the bag is actually a magic inventory. More evidence that this innocent regressor has hidden resources and a hidden agenda. The bribe is a hero-grade item, Ramus Tucker's Introduction to Alchemy, a book of forbidden alchemical knowledge from a master alchemist who was, ominously, purged by the Republic's military for unknown reasons. Our first real glimpse of the politics of the world waiting outside. Ki-young takes it, chooses Alchemist, and his full status window finally updates. His intelligence and luck are confirmed heroic tier, his build is locked in, and Hyun-sung's view of him quietly shifts, from useful administrator to an alchemist worth raising. An investment. And Ki-young happily embraces being the regressor's investment, fully intending to keep paying out returns. The end of the tutorial comes quietly. There's no final boss. The group reaches a temple-like room with a magic circle in the center and one last sealed door. Deok-gu can't push it open by force. The puzzle's answer turns out to be magic itself. Hyun-sung channels mana into the circle, something ordinary people from Earth simply cannot do, and the quest completes. Survival, 1 of 1. Strategy, 1 of 1. And here's the emotional payoff. As the quest clears, Hyun-sung, the controlled, unreadable regressor, clenches his fists and trembles, and appears to be crying. And Ki-young reads it not as relief, but as overwhelming accomplishment. Like something this man has been working toward for a very, very long time has finally gone right. Whatever Hyun-sung failed at in his first life, clearing this tutorial with these specific people was the plan. And the plan is working. The dungeon transforms into a gleaming palace. The far door opens onto real sunlight, actual sunshine, not the artificial light they've lived under. And waiting outside are people in armor, holding weapons, and a woman who introduces herself as Lee Sang-hee, the administrator of the tutorial dungeon. They made it. Out of everyone who woke up screaming in that dark stone room, this small, strange, broken little group walked out into a new world. The chapter's title says it all. We survived. And the last line notes it took them a moment to even realize it was true. So the tutorial filtered out the weak, And 4 monsters walked out holding hands. A ruthless schemer, a yandere genius, an unbreakable wall, and a regressor whose plan is only just beginning. But surviving the tutorial was the easy part. Out in the real world, power isn't taken by raw strength. It's organized. And every survivor is about to be pulled into the system that runs everything on this continent. The guilds. Which one Ki-young joins decides who he answers to, who he uses, and who he buries next. That's the guild selection arc, and it's where our below-average loser starts playing for real stakes. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.